is a good start to the video, Matt. It's not the right word. I've thrown in the word hue there. I don't really know what it means. I mean, that is actually, essentially that is book matched, and so is that. It doesn't need to be, but it is. If you paid attention and you applied yourself like you really should have done if you hit play. And that's how I do larder racks. What's happening YouTube? My name's Matt, and this is going to be a video about me making this pantry slash larder slash spice rack, whatever you want to call it. That's up to you. And yeah, I make quite a few of these when I make kitchens, and I'm making a kitchen at the moment, so I thought I'd document me making it. It's purely going to be that simple. Although I will complicate it along the way somehow. But basically I've already started, just in an effort to keep the video a little bit shorter. So first part of the process for me is I have done a one-to-one version of it just to make sure that things work. So you can either do that on a rod, which is what I've done, or you can do it on CAD, which is what I sometimes do. But in this instance, I've done a rod. I'll put it up on the screen now. And then I've got the door sizes because I've actually made the doors. They're in the paint room at the moment in between coats. And I screwed some offcuts to replicate those onto the rod, open and shut them just to make sure that basically the larder unit, the spice rack, doesn't interfere with itself or with the other door as it opens and shuts. And then the next part of the process is the timber selection. So for this piece, I think I had about 3 or 4 lengths of oak that I was willing to sort of like, not sacrifice, but I'll put to one side for this project, knowing I'm not going to use all of those. But the danger of oak is that basically as you stain it, oil it, varnish it, whatever you're going to do, or in this case I might actually epoxy resin it. Shout out Martin Cox for sending me those samples. I still haven't used them, do apologise. When you apply those finishes, it can dramatically change the hues. Is that the right word? I've thrown in the word hue there. I don't really know what it means. Colours basically in the wood. You get different tones of colour tones in the wood, in the oak especially, and it will dramatically change when you apply finish. So ideally you want to try and get it out of one piece just to minimise the fact that that's going to happen. So in this instance I did, and this is what I'm left with. So like I said, I've already started. I've already machined all of this down on the thickness of planer and the bandsaw. So we've basically got, I mean, that is actually, essentially that is book matched, and so is that. It doesn't need to be, but it is. And they're going to be the sides. Then here we've got the very bottom of the spice rack, which is for bigger items. Then we've got the facing of that. And then we've got the bottom of the spice rack section and the facing of that. And you'll notice that I've actually already grooved out so the shelf accepts the facing. So basically, it's going to be hard to do one-handed, isn't it? Really this is a good start to the video, Matt. Click in like that. So basically, it already holds on there. I was going to do all that with a small router, because over the years I've adapted how I do this, which is why I've picked you up for the video really. When I first started doing it, I was doing it all on a router table. I didn't have a spindle model, I don't think, that's why, yeah, but it was sort of overcomplicating it. And then I started doing most of it basically with a handheld router. Apart from the rebating, I was then doing the rebating on a table saw, I think, or the panel saw, I can't remember. But this time round, I just did the rebating over on the spindle model because it's what it's for, really. But I haven't filmed that. I haven't filmed me cutting or machining the timber, just because that, you know, go to some other videos on my channel. There's loads of that. But I just thought I'd include me now picking it up and showing you how I do all of this next stage with a small handheld router. And actually, where is the router? The router's over here. And actually, just one of these little trim routers, if you like, not barely even a router, just a trimmer. And actually, you could even do those rebates with it. So what I've got over here, look at me walking around. Over here, under here, I've got all these old jigs. Every time I make something and I make a jig, I try and keep the jig. I throw it under there, and it's just really, really handy just for handle jigs and stuff. And as it goes, one of the last racks I made, the shape, which is that's going to be the shape of it, if you like, is more or less the same size as what I'm doing here. So with a little bit of adapting, that'll work. And then I've got like a little sled, if you like. So let's take this over to here. So this little sled, bang, every time I do it. Yeah, this little sled basically fits the router with a little bit of slop, which makes up for when that slot moves, that router bit then creates the exact same width as the shelves. And we basically put this on my, what I've got on the underside, completely square at 90 degrees to that slot is a stop and a starting piece for the piece of wood that goes, the piece of oak that goes underneath. And then you put this on here, and then you've got a physical stop there for that. I basically treat this trim router, this piece here, as a guide bush. And then that just creates your slots. And all you need to do is clamp it down. Or what I had done in the past when I was using the router table is I had a little bit of sandpaper glued to here, which just created a nice little bit of friction. So you can just friction it on, then run it over the router table. But we're not doing that instance. We're not doing that in this instance. And then on here, the spice rack, to get the shape, because it's quite a fussy piece to cut, what I do is I mark out where I'm going to put my shelves, and that's where I screw it down onto the piece I'm cutting. Okay, so basically those screw marks, when they go through the oak, will end up being in the rebate of the shelves, so you don't actually see them as long as you do it on the inside when you fix it to it, because obviously the shelves will only be on the inside, not the outside. I don't think that's translated very well because I'm not very good at this. So what I've done is I've tried to keep that chat quite low. So if you're still here, like in terms of this channel, you haven't really achieved much because I normally talk a lot more than this. But if you're still here, stick around because you're about to enter a little montage of me making all of this. And if you paid attention and you applied yourself like you really should have done if you've hit play, all of that will make sense. And then you'll be left at the end of the montage with something which is just glistening at you. Right, let's go. And that's how I make larder racks. That's how I've made these anyway. Yeah, so basically that's actually an oak Finzer Lissa oak melamine board, and actually it looks better than when I do the veneer stuff. Normally all my cabinets are veneers. It matches in much better. Just with lacquered oak. Thought that was sort of quite interesting to document. That's not really what the video is about, I know. It's about these larder racks. Yeah, basically these larder racks, you'll notice I use a 4mm domino to connect these, and I didn't mention what the, you know, that I sort of pre-buy these in and just drill them in with a hand drill. You could obviously, over the years I've done different methods. I've extended that little jig with the palm router to do like an L shape to accept this, like a little socket. You can use the pillar drill. I normally do use the pillar drill for that. It's unnecessarily complicated, because if you use the router for that piece, you've then got to either rebate this to cover the round to where the router notches out, or you've got to chop out all your router in nice and square. Whereas if you just do it this way, this covers the round bit of the router and the 4mm domino goes in. Obviously you could use the dowel, or, I mean, the only problem is to keep the weight down, I do this out of 12mm, so you'd have to be careful using the dowel and the drill. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting to document. Obviously I could have used spindle moulder, pillar drill, router table. There's loads of tools I could have used for this, but the reality is you can pretty much use, if you buy the oak as well, ready thickness planes, you can pretty much do that with a drill and a palm router and some offcuts, you know, for jigs and whatnot. Yeah, and I think they look really, really good. The reality is that's probably about 8 hours work for me to do those, but just over different bits and bobs, obviously in between the glue ups and stuff. Yeah, thought I'd document it. They're sitting nice and flat to the door as well. I like to keep the thing is, you've got to keep the weight down on these, because there's quite a lot of weight when they put the jars and stuff in, and I've done enough of them now. I've not had problems. I keep reducing it, so now I've settled on about, that's 12, and I do these at 9. It's just enough. It is just enough weight wise, and as you can see, they're pretty flat to the door. They're pretty good. And then what I like to do, I found this is the best way, just a solid piece of oak at the bottom. It's a little bit crude, but you don't see it. It's got 2 nice big screws in there going into the rail of the door, and then I'll just screw it down and put some veneer stickers on it. Yeah, it's not the prettiest. I'll do the same at the top, but I was messing around with like angle brackets, dowels, all sorts of things. You need it to be adjustable. You need to be able to remove it, and you need to put it on afterwards. There's no point trying to make it so it's incorporated into the door. That just seems to be the best way. Unfortunately, on cabinet doors, you sort of govern to this 6 or 9mm panel. So there's not really any strength in fixing into that. So you've got to try and pick up your rails and styles. Yeah, anyway, waffle. Thumbnail. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Go check out my other videos. Yeah, rate my rack. Let's come up with that. That was good, wasn't it? See you on the next one.